Okay, Jewish ethics, no homework. And I believe today, I think this is the one that you picked, but I don't really remember. If you've learned a lot of Torah, then don't take credit for yourself.
Oh, I thought you were telling Ayala. I was like, what?
Oh, that's funny. All right, so let me pass this out. This is a long time ago that we did the forum. Yeah. How many days a week do you guys have your Zionism class? Twice. Okay. Alrighty, so this is a short mishnah, and you got it there. Let's go. Who wants to read and translate? Okay, go ahead.
Rabbeinu Yonah ben Zakkai, Kibel Mihila Mishame. Rabbeinu Yonah ben Zakkai accepted from Hillel and from Shammai.
Yeah, and so here I would say received rather than accepted, even though that's it's a legitimate translation because we're talking about receiving Torah while peh.
Okay. Who Hayal Mark? He would say, Torah you learn a lot of Torah. Also sounds like don't.
Yeah, this is not a literal translation. You have to like translate it as like an idiom. What does a lahachazik mean, or like chazak? There's two meanings of chazak in Shirashim. Strong, to be strong, and to seize. So don't
like, acquire.
Seize.
Good for yourself.
Yeah, so what do you think that means, just if you had to guess? Yeah, don't take credit for it, right? Okay, so don't, I think the closest thing in English is like, don't take credit for yourself, or like, don't pat yourself on the back, like as we would say in English. No sarta, yeah.
Because for you.
No, that would be lacha. This is lakach.
Oh, because therefore.
Lakach can sometimes be therefore, like laka, or lafikach, but.
Because you were created.
Yeah, and when it is created, I'll flip it. Yeah, there you go. Because for this you were created, right? Lakach no sarta. For this you were created. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, this is what?
I don't know, like for this you were created reminded you of something.
No, it actually wasn't that. I was just looking at Hillel and Shammai. Anyone know what the connection is between Hillel and Shammai and what we were doing in English?
Oh, they used to fight each other. But I don't think it was Rogerian, was it?
Anyone know what was Rogerian?
You present both sides for Hillel and Shammai.
No, good guess though. What was one of the things Hillel was praised for and how he argued?
Oh yeah, he said nice things about Shammai.
That's probably true also. He would always state his opponent's position first. You know, that's I don't think that's, I mean, I don't know. People say that that's why we go by him. I don't know if that's why we go by him, but Hillel was using a Rogerian style of argument in that phase of his argument. Obviously, he was still trying to defend his position. Okay, so this is the only part that we're doing right now. What questions can you ask on this? It's possible we'll finish this today, by the way. There's not a ton here.
Who would say?
All right. Well, I mean, we're not even going to list those because that's every single mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says who they got the Masorah from, right?
What do you mean by like credit?
Yeah. So let's say, what does it mean to tachazik tova la'atzmecha, to take credit for yourself? Yeah.
So is it just Torah, or it's like if you learn anything?
Good. Is this limited to Torah, or is it all learning?
Why
Yeah.
would someone think that they should?
Good. Havamina, right? So what is the hava amina? Meaning, why would someone think that they could take credit? Good.
What does it mean for this?
Yeah. So what is the lakach? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when it says, well, I guess let's say, what does it mean? Yeah. What is it? I'm going to ask the broader version and then the specific possibility. What does it mean when it says says this is what you were created for, is this giving us the purpose of of life? Is this just another idiom, right? Like you were made for this, like when people say that, they don't mean it literally that you're made for this. Yeah.
Also, you should say it in like a opposite way. This is saying you're made for this, so don't take credit. That way.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Bonus, like,
That's true. Also, how is this argument a valid response to the Havamina, right? Meaning it's saying, so we have, why would you think you can't take credit? And then how does this actually address that? Like, it sounds nice, but like, how does it refute it? What else? Yeah, this is 4. What is this for? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to actually tack that on to the end of this, which is, if this is for a for great chachamim, so why would they specifically have this havamina? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, why would someone want to take credit for it?
Yeah. So I'll
In
add.
what context does someone do this?
Yeah. Why would someone think that they could take credit? In what context? I think these are all lumped under the same question, although it is a good question. Okay, good. All right.
Also,
Yeah.
Is it like adding something when it says take credit for yourself, or no? It's just like what else would you take credit?
Yeah, I think that's just part of the phrase of like I think that's just how you say taking credit. Yeah, I'm going to assume that unless we see otherwise. Okay, so questions are pretty straightforward. What do you say for? Let me just share this the right way. What do you say for answers?
The obvious one, but this seems too obvious. That's why I'm like,
Yeah, get it out. It's always good to get out the obvious
the
stuff.
obvious one would be like, oh, if you're like learning an idea or something from Torah from another rabbi, like a Torah idea, then give credit to the source.
Yeah.
Torah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, let me just think. That's definitely true. I don't think. I'm just thinking about whether machazik tova could be used about taking credit in that way, because that's more like attribution, like attributing it to the source.
I mean, credit. I feel like we need to define.
Yeah. What it means to take credit. I mean, again, literally means.
This is mine. This is mine.
Well, literally means to seize good for yourself. But you're right. We need to answer that question. What does it mean to take credit? Did we ask that? Did we ask what it means to take credit?
What does it mean?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah.
Maybe it's like, if you're like a great rabbi, like in a high position, like don't reap the benefits of having all these people admire you.
That's
because you're
interesting.
teaching them Torah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely other statements of Chazal that talk about that. In terms of like taking advantage of your position and the honor,
They're saying like you were created like with this ability, like this talent to be a leader.
Yeah.
So don't act like you're something special.
Okay.
So that's kind of how you were
Yeah.
created.
Okay, so the created part, that's a good explanation of the created part. So could you just see if you can state one more time, why would you be inclined to do this? And then how is the you were created for this argument refute that?
You'd be inclined like, oh, I learned all this Torah. I gained this big following because of my personality, who I am. So you feel like it's all from you. So you deserve to also reap the benefits of being in that high position.
Yeah.
It's basically saying like you were created this way, like this is how God created you. You were created with this ability. You're not superior to anyone else.
Okay, so
because of you.
okay, good. So the second interpretation we're going to do today is very much either that exactly or in line with that. So that's a good idea.
It's not like a high position, but like just Torah benefits you if you follow it. So any reaping of the benefits of Torah, like if you attribute it to yourself.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Any Torah, I got the part. Any learning that you do
like she was saying,
is
if you're in a
beneficial.
high position,
Yeah.
and you attribute the high position to yourself. I'm
Yeah.
saying like any sort of Torah benefit of like keeping the Torah that you attribute it to yourself.
So why shouldn't you attribute it to yourself?
For the same
Oh, same reason. Okay, yeah, I hear that also.
The only reason I wouldn't, I was seeing the assumption that this was something that was very great.
Yeah.
Not the average person is going to really benefit much from Torah unless you really take it there. If you just follow mitzvahs average without thought, I don't think you're going to find benefit.
Yeah, mitzvahs, I could hear that argument. I mean, you do get benefit, but I don't think they're going to relate to it as like, this is my accomplishment. You know, I don't think the average Jew like relates to the fact that they like daven every day as like an accomplishment, you know. I don't know, maybe they do. But yeah, in learning, but you're raising another possibility also for this question of, for Ayala's question of the learning. Oh yeah, number 2, is this limited to Torah, or is it all learning, or is it even including mitzvos? You know, because I mean, I would not have thought that naturally, because it says, im lamadta Torah harbe, if you learned a lot of Torah, but theoretically, like, you know, would this extend to all Torah accomplishments? Like maybe it's just using learning Torah because that's what they're talking about.
Maybe it's like distinguishing between like your intellect and like the ideas. Like people, when they come up with ideas from their intellect or whatever, and they learn ideas, and they kind of, it feels like you're doing it on your own, and it feels like the ideas are yours, but it's really drawing you to like the fact that it's not your ideas, it's your intellect's ideas, and like you're created with your intellect. It's not like, I guess it's kind of you, but it's something you were created with, so don't like take your own credit for the ideas because they're something broader.
Okay, so let me just to play devil's advocate. I hear what you're saying, but let's say, for example, if you told a craftsman, like, don't take credit for building the furniture because you used the hammer and the nails and stuff like that. So it's really the hammer and the nails, you know, it should get the credit. So how is that different? Like if you're using your intellect, like, yes, it's true that you couldn't have done it without your intellect, but isn't your intellect just a tool that you're using?
Well, I think like the intellect is the tool that you're using. There's no way to do it without your intellect.
Right. But the emphasis of my question is on the fact that you are the user of it, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I think also practically, like someone who learns like Torah, you're supposed to spread like the word of Torah.
Yeah.
So like maybe just like if you learn Torah, you shouldn't like you're supposed to spread it. So you were like created to like not like spread the word of like Hashem. So like not take credit for that, like what you've learned.
Oh, so it's putting the emphasis on the learning itself, that you're saying that since the whole point of the learning really is to, the ultimate point of the learning, obviously you're doing it for yourself also, but the ultimate point of learning is to teach or to spread it, then the learning itself, like it'd be like if a person said, there's gotta be a good analogy for this. Like let's say a person was a fundraiser but never actually gave over the money. Like, look how many funds I've raised for like the starving kids in Africa. Well, that's very nice, but like unless you give it to the starving kids in Africa, then like why are you like giving so much credit to yourself? So is that like what you're saying with the learning thing? Like, yeah, you learned a lot, but like if you're not putting it into action or like teaching other people, so then like, so that's definitely a true idea. The question is, how does lakach notzarta, that this is what you were created for, address that?
Maybe because you're saying like you're making a division, like you're setting the value system, because originally you think the value system is just to learn the ideas.
Yeah.
But they all saying like, no, you're created to like spread the ideas and teach the ideas. So like you're thinking maybe it's saying you can take credit for stuff, just not learning, because that's not the ultimate good.
Yeah, I feel like if that's what it's trying to say, it's a little weird for it to say that this is what you were created for, and that this certainly seems to be the learning.
Right.
He's saying even further, it's like a sense of like elitism. If you're like a smart person that learns all these ideas, but you keep them in for yourself. Like the only one that's able to benefit from your learning is yourself. Maybe that's what she's saying more. And like the reason why God created you with that ability is to spread it and to help other people. Yeah.
See, I don't object to the idea. I just feel like if the thing this is trying to direct you to do was to teach others, I feel like it should say something about that in the Mishnah. So the fact that it's not saying that leads me to believe it's not what it is.
I feel like on Ayala's idea about the intellect, not that like when you say that like, oh, I came up with this with my mind, that like really the intellect doesn't belong to you and it's God. Like some part of it is you.
Yeah.
And like you can take credit for that in that sense. But when you do take credit for it, it causes like a misconstrued like idea of like what what really like is yours, and like it kind of belittles God.
Yeah. How so? I elaborate on that. Like, what's the mistake when you take credit for ideas that you came up with?
You think that it's like almost 100%. You don't see that like the majority of it has to do with what you were given. Like,
Yeah.
If you didn't exist, there wouldn't be no.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So in other words, I don't think it's the same thing, but it almost reminds me of the Kochi v'otam yadi thing in Parshas Akev about like not like obviously you made the decision to use your intellect, but like you cannot take full credit for it because it's under different circumstances. Then you would not have been able to arrive at the ideas that you arrived at, using this. Like if you had a different upbringing, if you had different, scenarios, if you didn't have Lomdeha, like.
What your abilities and the way you grew up for granted. Like, what is it?
I think when you say misconstruing, Leah, you really are talking more of a like an egotistical type thing, right?
Yeah.
Like not like making a logical mistake. So it's saying like you're kicking back and like, yep, I'm great. I came up with all these ideas, but then realizing that the greatness is not really attributed to you. If you attribute the greatness to you, then you can only do that if you were the one who was fully responsible for this,
Right.
But there's so many other factors that you can't take credit for. And
That's why I think it uses creation.
Yeah.
The creating itself is what made it.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I think, oh, hold on. Oh, well, not hold. Oh, oops. Did I just translate the whole thing there? Yeah. Forgot to do the animations. Whatever. So let's do Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay. Because I think Rabbeinu Yonah takes an approach like that. Oh, sorry. No, he doesn't. What am I saying? What was that?
How would that answer the hammer question? You could still say, yeah, you were created, you were given all these stuff, but still, like these stuff don't necessarily form ideas. That's you.
Well, yeah. So it's funny because the Ron makes a similar point in the Kochi v'otam yadi thing. So he says, it says, you don't take credit for the wealth and stuff, but rather you should remember Hashem, ki hu hanosin lacha koach la'asos chayil. That God's the one who gave you the ability to make wealth. It doesn't say God is the one who gave you wealth, right? Because in other words, if it said God's the one who gave you wealth, that would imply that you had no role in it. So it says God gave you the ability to make wealth. So you did apply your own mind and your own free will to make the wealth, but who gave you the ability? That you can't take credit for. That was really from Hashem. So same thing here, like, yeah, you're the one who decided to sit down and learn, right? So that part you can take credit for because you use your own mind. But the ability to arrive at the truth through your learning, or the circumstances which allowed you to be in a situation where you have like the resources to learn, those things you can't like take credit for.
It just means credit.
Yeah, full credit. Yeah, meaning or all credit.
What does it mean take credit? It's like your attitude.
Yeah, it's your attitude. This is not like a mishlaic thing where it has to culminate in a practical decision. This is more of the way you relate to your own Torah. And I think that is related to the thing that the stuff you're saying earlier about the like getting all full of yourself, but not so much from a social dimension, more of a like, I mean, this could have social ramifications also, but like from a like I'm a great, like look at the way that like in certain areas of secular society, people who are like viewed as very smart, like there's a haughtiness that comes from that is just like as if they're so great for doing this, yeah, like
Try not to feel like it's obvious. That's what I'm trying to like get.
yeah. And I think keep that in mind, because I also want to make sure that we find an idea that's a chiddush. Because you're right, at this point you're right. I don't think there's a chiddush here. All right, so in the interest of time, let's do Rabbeinu Yonah. I misspoke. Rabbeinu Yonah is not like what you're saying, I don't think. But let's do Rabbeinu Yonah, and then I have Sforno, and then we'll compare the approaches we've been taking and then their approaches. And I forgot to do the animations here, so let's just I'll read it then. So he says, is this where your Rabbeinu Yonah begins?
Oh, that's what you mean by animation.
Ours just has like the
Yeah.
the missionary.
Oh, the missionary said, okay, yeah. I didn't mean like a cartoon. Yeah. Yeah, I drew a little picture of Rabbeinu Yonah taking credit for himself. So he says, this is on the first page. So Adayin ata b'tchila, you are still at the beginning. Umasai tazi gata emsa, when are you going to attain the middle, so in the end? Ki Torah arucha me'eretz mida v'ruchava mina yam. The Torah is longer than the earth is its measure and broader than the sea. And human comprehension cannot reach its ultimate extent. How distant is every man from it, meaning from the end, the ultimate like extent of Torah. How can a person take credit for himself when he hasn't done in his learning of Torah even 1,000th of what there is to do? Okay, so this is a completely different approach than anyone said, right? What? Yeah, I've heard that mashal before, but I always seem to forget it. What's your memory of it? Yeah.
Like the more you learn, the more you see like on a mountain there are a bunch of false peaks, and like you see a peak and you're like, oh, I'm about to be at the top.
Yeah.
And you get there and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, right. I mean, when you go over the peak, then you see that there are all these other other peaks that you just were being blocked by the first peak.
Because the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly, right. So that's the part he's emphasizing. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. I think there was a quote that I had up in room 5. Let me just see if I could find it here. Google search. I didn't incorporate it into the PowerPoint. Newton seashell. Does it ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself, I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. Of like expressing this idea of like, I'm just like this little kid picking up shells and there's so much that I don't know. And like, therefore, like, how can I even like, so according to this, what is the mistake that the person is making who does take credit for themselves? Like, what is the Havamina? Either that they know it all or not even that.
Could eventually know.
Maybe that's like the implicit mistake, but like, yeah, that what they do know is a lot. I mean, not necessarily that they know it all, but like that like this is like, look how much I have learned, but the how much is kind of evaluated in proportion to what there is to be learned. And it's saying like, yeah, but so what? You found this little seashell, but like there's all these other shells, So it'd be like, can anyone put this into a mashal of like accomplishments outside of the realm of Torah, just so we could get it clear? Like, give me a scenario where a person would be bragging about how much they've done, and the fact though that it's so small means that their bragging is just like misplaced.
Like a nervous person, like bragging that they're so accomplished, they're so high up, they know everything, but clearly they don't know.
Okay, yeah. So that's a more sophisticated mashal than what I was looking for. But it's true is that we know so little about the brain, and like
Even the top neurosurgeons barely know.
exactly, yeah. I'm smiling under my mask because my dad was an anesthesiologist, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone. He was a psychiatrist and then an anesthesiologist and now a psychiatrist again. Yeah.
I want to hear that
Right.
story.
Yeah. That's a whole story. Yeah. And before that, he was a math teacher. Yeah. Yeah. The natural path. But he, my dad said that anesthesiologists think that the most arrogant people in the world are surgeons, and the most arrogant of the surgeons are neurosurgeons, but I wouldn't be surprised if you probably have both. If you have the ones who like realize how little they know about the brain and like are humble, and then the ones who think that they're all that because they're curing the most, severe types of problems that people can have. More humble example, I feel like would be like if you like got a job and on your first job you made $1 and you walked around bragging about how much money you made, it's like that's what you're gonna brag about. Yeah, that's what I got. I was gonna use an example of little kids, but like little kids you can understand because they don't really get, well, actually maybe that's a good example, right? A little kid has no grasp of like what it means to make money, and the reason why the kid brags is because like they think that is the accomplishment, and if they knew like what it means to make money and like how little they've made, they would wait to brag until they like were like more wealthy.
But I still think like a little kid who learns 1 + 1 and it also gets like so excited
Yeah.
that they learned it and they brag about that. I still think there is something that they
Yes.
take credit
So based on we've only read half of Rabbeinu Yonah, but based on what Rabbeinu Yonah is saying so far, who does it seem like this? Who does it seem like the Mishnah is for?
I guess a chassid, because it's saying like, yes, you can take credit for it, you did do it, but like chassidly you shouldn't.
Okay, that's one argument, is you could say why it is for a chassid, but you sounded like you're making an argument before about how it would be like detrimental in some way if a non-chassid were to think about this too much. In other words, why would you, like, if you go to a little kid who like figured out how to read a pasuk and you're like, don't take credit for yourself, you know, that's gonna be what was it? Yeah, it's gonna hurt their development and their feelings and their relationship to Torah, you know. So I feel like it is a positive thing for people who are still in the early developing stages to feel good about what they learn. And that's like a very important thing for parenting and teaching. Like, you should encourage kids to feel good about the Torah that they learned, you know. But at a certain point, when you get across that peak, if you're like carrying around yourself as all that, then at this point you must have a distorted idea of Torah or your involvement in it, and that would be, at that point, it would be bad for your midos to take credit. In other words, I guess the answer to question number 7 is going to depend on, is this going to hurt or help your development? If taking credit for your Torah is going to help your development, then that's a great lo lishma, and it's even a lo lishma that's in line with reality, because learning Torah is good. But if it's going to hurt your development by making you arrogant or or lazy in Torah, or think that like you've learned more than you actually know, so then you should moderate your attitude through this. Yeah. Is it a fine line, or is it just a line that's very relative to many factors and hard to pinpoint? Meaning, I think we would all be able to recognize like when a person had crossed the line and when they're taking credit for the Torah would be detrimental. Like, I think that would be like clear to other people, probably not to the person themselves.
I mean,
yeah, it's beneficial for a long time. And I think like taking credit for Torah is good. I mean, look, we make siyums, we have celebrations, like.
It's healthy, it keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
It depends, I guess, the way you frame it. If you frame it in a way, oh, I'm almost done, I could take a break, and that's bad. But if you frame it like, oh, I'm already so high, let's keep going. Yeah. So I guess just to outline then the two ways that it would be detrimental. One is intellectually detrimental, where it makes you stop putting in the effort to learn. You know, like you feel like you've done enough. Like, for example, there was a I'm actually going to, I don't think this person knows this. And then the other example is emotionally harmful, where your arrogance makes you, for example, like think you're smarter than everyone and like reject other people's opinions, or like be too quick to believe your own ideas, or abusing your position in society, like you were mentioning, like oh, I have all these people who think I'm a chacham, so like I can tell them whatever I want, or and I think those lines are easier to spot. I do think it is hard to spot in yourself, maybe, like and you're right, you have to have a lot of self-knowledge and honesty to know if you're falling into this trap.
But I also think that we have to define credit. Credit, like, you should feel accomplished. Even like a great chacham, like let's say he does a page that is still.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I think the second half of the video comes in. You tell me if this is convincing or not. So he says, because it was for this that you were created. The Kadosh Baruch Hu only created out of nothing. Only created you out of nothing in order to do his will. Also, for this reason, you shouldn't take credit. You shouldn't take credit for yourself if you did a lot of Torah, because it was for this that you were created. An analogy can be made to a debtor, meaning someone who owes money, who paid off his debt. Did they give him credit for this? This trait also applies regarding the mitzvos, that if you have done many mitzvos, do not take credit for yourself, because it was for this reason that you were created. Now, his examples don't necessarily resonate with us, but I have an example that I was thinking of, is like, if you think about yourself physically, okay, you are a mammal, and you need a certain amount of water, like, in order to live. So if you take a glass of water and you drink it and you're like, I am such a great person, I drink water, we would realize that that's like a little bit of a misplaced like pride, like this is how your body was designed. Like, so like, don't take credit for like drinking water. Like that's how you were made, So too, you were created with a Tzelem Elokim. That, I think this does apply to all knowledge, by the way, because he's not just like, I don't know, maybe you can make an argument it's talking about mitzvos, but when it says for this you were created, yeah, I think it's all knowledge, but whatever, you say it's Torah, like, okay, but this is what you are by nature. So like, why are you bragging about something that you were created to do? If it was something that was going beyond what you were created to do, and like no one was doing this, or this is like an exceptional thing, so then maybe you can take credit. but this is what you're created to do. So like paying off a debt is not something that you feel accomplished about. Like you might feel happy about it, but not accomplished. And maybe that's the thing, is that like, I think there is a difference between feeling like it's a special accomplishment versus like it's a good, meaning recognizing that it's a good and that you did something good. I think that's fine. But like, I am like accomplished, I think is the
I
thing.
think I am accomplished. Like there's two ways to say it. To say like I am accomplished or this was an accomplishment.
Right.
I think I am accomplished can give you that sense of pride, but like this is an accomplishment. It's just like encouragement and like you should feel good about things you did. So how you do more.
Yeah.
Like someone who steals, let's say,
Yeah.
and then they don't steal once. You could say, oh, duh, like that's you're not meant to steal, so it's not good that you didn't steal.
That's actually a great example. Let's differentiate between that and like in others like this. If a person is addicted to stealing and then they one time they could steal and they don't, we would say that for that person, that's a huge step forward. And therefore that's something that's worthy to celebrate. But we would say as a human being, like I didn't steal is not like by design in terms of like what you are. That's not like a great thing. Like it's a baseline assumption that people shouldn't steal. So like, can we differentiate those two categories? Because I think if we did that, then we would see like where the Mishnah does apply and where it doesn't, you know?
Find, like, on a societal level, like, you shouldn't get too much praise for things that should just be assumed. Like, you shouldn't make it such a big thing so everyone should just do it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what the Mishnah is saying, but I don't think it's saying it on a societal level. I am, the more we talk about this, the more I'm inclined to think that this really is for the people who are Hasidim. I don't think this is for the average Jew, because I think, like we've been talking about, I think it is good for the average Jew to feel good about the Torah that they learn and to feel accomplished, you know? But like, here's another example. I mean, I take it back. Even that can have its limits. Like one of the criticisms of the Daf Yomi program, I mean, obviously the benefit of the Daf Yomi program is that people learn every day, right? But anyone think of a criticism along with these lines? I learned all of Shas, right? Is that now you got a bunch of people who like maybe they just went to a half an hour shiur every day, maybe they like just read the English or whatever, like, and now they're walking around thinking that I learned all of Shas and like I'm just like a great Talmid Chacham who learned all of Shas, you know? So I do think it could even harm the average individual, but I guess I think it goes back to that dichotomy I said before, is this is for anyone where if taking credit for their Torah will harm their intellectual or emotional development, then they shouldn't take credit for it. But if it's going to be beneficial for their development, then they should. And for the people who are in charge of like training or modeling other people's way of relating to Torah, like teachers and parents and community leaders, then I think they should take this into account also. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there really is a big difference between I am accomplished and this isn't accomplished.
Yeah.
I am accomplished.
Yeah, I like that distinction also. Yeah. Making about the me versus about the thing. Yeah. Let's do one more. So the Sforno takes this Mishnah. You notice I printed a giant longer version of the Mishnah. So he connects it to the next two Mishnayos. Okay, so here's what the next two Mishnayos say. And this is, we're not going to dwell on this point. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 students, and these were they: Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanos, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, Rabbi Shimon ben Asanel, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Okay, he would enumerate their praises. Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanos, he's like a cemented cistern. You know what a cistern is?
Yeah, we did it in your.
Oh, you're right. In my Yirmiyahu class. Oh no, you're right. My Gemara class also. Yeah. Oh, now I don't know what you're talking. We definitely did it in Yirmiyahu because I remember the word cistern is there. Maybe we did it in Bona also. I'm not sure. Okay, it's like it's a thing that holds water, right? It's a cemented cistern that doesn't lose a drop. Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, praiseworthy is she who bore him. Okay, his mother should be proud. Rabbi Yossi HaKohen is a chassid. Rabbi Shimon ben Asanel fears sin. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach is like a wellspring flowing stronger and stronger. Okay, so that's what he said about his students. Then this is the next Mishnah. He used to say, if all the sages of Israel were on one pan of a balance scale, so that's like a balance like this, you know, and Eliezer ben Horkanos were on the second pan, he would outweigh them all. Okay, does not mean in body mass. It means in terms of, right? It means in terms of like how great he is, right? It's like he's better than all 4 of them put together. Sorry, in all of them put together. Abba Shal Omer Mishmo. Abba Shal said in his name, if all the sages of Israel were on one pan of the balance scale, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanos was with them, then Rabbi Elazar ben Arach were on the second pan, he would outweigh them all. Oh, yeah. So they're arguing about who's better. Yeah. So now, if you just read these two Mishnayos, you would not think that it has anything to do with our Mishnah. But look what the Sforno says. He says like this: Im lamarta Torah harbe. If you learn a lot of Torah, yosir mechaverecha. If you learn more than your friends, al tiyaches ze el rav hishtadlusacha. How do you translate hishtadlus? It's a common word. Effort, right? So do not ascribe this to the greatness of your effort, ulamut hishtadlus chaverecha, and the lesser effort on the part of your friends. Amnam yikreze gam bihios hishtadlusam shave. This can also occur if their effort is equal. Kishatiye hahachana biyitzira bilti shave, when their natural predispositions are not equal. Okay. Ulakach, and this is, I think this is a good interpretation. Tiyaches ze alma shenotzarta muchan lakach yoser mechaverecha. You should ascribe this to the fact that you were created predisposed for this more than your friends. In other words, you have better. It doesn't necessarily mean genetics. Like it could be nurture and nature. You have a greater disposition for this, not necessarily greater effort. And then he says ulakium devarav ela, to support or to corroborate these words of his. Mana shevach gedolei talmidav. He enumerated the praises of his greatest students. So he talked about his 5 students and that they all certainly tried as hard. Okay. Amnam, however, madregas hamalos haniknos bahem hayabilti shave v'zebios hachanasam biyitzira bilti shave. But basically, their accomplishments or their virtues were different because they each had different qualities that they started off with. You know, so according to him, it's not talking about like how can you take credit for something if you just scratch the surface. He's saying don't ascribe. He's saying people take credit for their effort without factoring in natural predispositions. And if they were to take that into account, they would realize like, yeah, if you were born with the same genetics as this guy, or the same like upbringing, or the same like opportunities, you might have turned out very differently. Like maybe you wouldn't have accomplished, and vice versa. Like maybe if you were in your shoes growing up, then he would have accomplished just as much or more than you. And I think this is like an easier way. Like, who do you think this is relevant for, I guess? This is relevant for everyone, right? Because I think here's something people naturally judge each other or judge themselves and like are in a competition with other people. Even if they're not like actively competing, they'll like feel bad about the fact that they're not as accomplished as other people, or they'll feel better about themselves. And, they should really realize that there's so much that has to do with your upbringing and your circumstances and your dispositions. Yeah?
I think when you take this mindset and you like put people who are like this will put other people down, so
yes,
they feel like they're better.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're like ruining what you're created for, because you're not like the actual creations around you. Like you're literally. Oh,
that's also true. Yeah. It's destructive for creation. Did I ever tell you the lesson that my 3rd grade teacher taught me that I still remember? I reconnected with her like, I don't know, like when I was like in my late 20s, and I emailed her to thank her for this. Is that on the first day of this is Ms. Wilkinson, on the first day of 3rd grade, she had all of us. How old are you in 3rd grade? Like 8, 7, around there. Yeah. So she had each of us draw a flower. Okay. And then she taped them all up on the wall. And then she said, and again, I don't remember the exact words, but I remember the message is she said that, each of these flowers looks different. And some of them like have a lot of colors, and some of them only have, one. Some of them have a lot of leaves, some of them only have one. Some of them grow really fast, some of them don't. And she said the main thing is that each of them grows the way that they're supposed to grow. And same thing with all of you, that each of you has different, strengths and talents. And like some of you learn fast, some of you learn slow. And like, the important thing is not to compare yourself to your classmate. As long as each of you is growing at your own pace, the way that you're supposed to grow, then that's the important thing. And for some reason, I guess she explained it in a way that 3rd graders can understand, because I remember it being really, really like impactful at the time. And then like, I would periodically think of that idea whenever I would feel bad about my own pace of development. Let's say like when I started, my Torah learning from scratch, and like I was like in the bottom shiur and stuff like that. Like, it's a universally true idea that's not just true for like 3rd graders, and I thought of that again when I was reading this, because it's a similar thing, Yeah. Alrighty, let's stop for today, and we'll do another one tomorrow.
Thank you.
Welcome.